A house or an apartment? It's a really big choice these days. There's so many more apartments available. I'm here with Dr. Andrew Wilson, the Senior Economist from the Domain Group. Andrew, what's your view?
Well, look, certainly we're seeing a growing preference for apartment living in Australia's major capital cities. A couple of things are driving that. Of course, there's urban sprawl. Residents are looking perhaps to get closer to the CBD. Also, we're starting to move away from that sense of the quarter-acre block. All housing moves in the same cycle. Apartments over time move with the same price energy that houses move. We see perhaps more volatility in housing markets because they tend to have sub-markets at extremes such as prestige markets, which apartments don't. And of course, apartments typically have smaller volumes of sales than houses. We are seeing a development of a mix of property and neighbourhood styles in Australia, particularly in the more mature urban geographies of Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. I think this is a good thing because it offers buyers choice and it means that we can maximise our urban resources.
So just say someone had $500,000 to invest, would they be better off buying a house in the outer suburbs or an inner city apartment?
Well, look, it's horses for courses, Steve. And as I said, over time, prices growth models each other, whether it's capital city or houses versus apartments. We certainly see high density living in Sydney, and that's because Sydney has a constrained geographical environment. That means that there's been a necessity for those suburbs to go up, those inner city suburbs in Sydney. And of course, the other factor that drives higher density development closer to the CBD in Sydney is the harbour itself. We don't see the same sort of environment for higher density living happening by osmosis or naturally in Brisbane and Melbourne. So over time, I don't believe one or the other will prove to be an investment preference.
So you can often get a better yield in a house in one of the outer suburbs, is that right?
Well, no, units provide a higher yield because units are typically less expensive than houses, so they offer a higher yield because their rentals are higher in comparison to the same prices versus rental model for a house. And the other factor is typically units are located closer to the CBD, closer to established amenities and facilities, and of course there is this growing preference for apartment living, even by families, and that really says it all.
And what's really driving this change to apartments?
Recreation is now not something that's provided in the backyard, it's something that's provided by the community. Also security, access to higher levels of infrastructure, access to job opportunities that are closer to the city. And I think that, you know, it's not for everybody, but certainly there's growing demand for that. And of course the economic climate is such that it offers a lower footprint in terms of its energy footprint as well as its spatial footprint. But this is all about the constraints of not enough land to go around for, particularly inner city land, to go around for the demand.
House or apartment, what are some of your takeaways, Andrew?
Well, look, preferences are individual, and we are seeing rising preference for unit living. Now that's driven not just by lifestyle, but also economic factors, because apartment living provides, you know, cheaper perhaps compared to a house, but that doesn't mean that there's still not strong demand for housing. We still see demand in Brisbane's outer suburbs and Melbourne's outer suburbs for those traditional types of living. So it's all about personal preferences.
Thanks very much, Andrew, for that advice. So there you have it. House or apartment, really up to you. See you next time.